our story tonight, Unpleasantness at Bludleigh Court, we see how the malignant influence of a house nearly wrecked the romance of two poets. They had the Dickens of a time, but fortunately everything came right in the end.
Excuse me. If you're undecided, may I suggest the Elizabeth Barrett Browning nut cutlet rather than the Ella Wheeler Wilcox dandelion salad? Like her work, it has more body, if you'll forgive the expression.
Thank you. But I think I'll just have the Christina Rossetti acorn tea. I don't eat very much, I'm afraid.
You must be a poet.
Well, yes, I am. And you?
Well, yes, but not exactly poetry. More what one might call pastels in prose.
Pastels in prose? Then you're Aubrey Trefusis. Oh, I have long admired your work.
You're too kind, Miss...
Mulliner. Charlotte Mulliner.
Vignettes in verse. Oh, this is indeed a proud moment. Miss Mulliner, I cannot tell you how often I've been impelled to clip your vignettes. Why, I've got two stuck in my shaving mirror this very moment. I do hope that you don't mind.
I'm flattered.
Do you come from a literary background, Miss Mulliner?
Well, no, not exactly, although the Mulliners are a very versatile family.
Really, my family are remarkably single-minded.
About poetry?
No, wildlife.
Ah, preserving it.
Killing it. They're what's called county. You know, the sporting set. Hunting, shooting, particularly shooting. It was like being brought up in an armory.
Good gracious.
You can imagine how such an environment jarred on my unfolding spirit. My views on kindness to animals are rigid.
But of course.
My impulse on encountering a rabbit is to offer it a lettuce. To my family, a rabbit seems incomplete without a deposit of small shot in it.
Sounds awful.
The moment I was 21, I left for London and the life literary. My family, of course, were appalled. My Uncle Francis, I remember, tried to reason with me for hours. He used to be a famous big game hunter, you see. Colonel Sir Francis Pashley Drake. They tell me he shot more gnus, that's gnus, of course.
Yes, I know. With a G. Silent.
They were after he'd finished with them. But now he's developed lumbago and is down at Bludleigh treating it with Riggs superfine emulsion and sunbathing.
Bludleigh, is that your home?
That's right. Bludleigh Court, Lesser Bludleigh, Goresby on the used Bedfordshire telephone, Goresby 28.
But Bludleigh is the home of Sir Alexander Bassinger.
Bassinger is my real name. I adopted the pen name Trefusis to spare my family's feelings. But how do you come to know about the place?
Well, I'm going down there next week for a visit.
Really?
Yes. My mother was an old friend of Lady Bassinger's. But from what you tell me, I shan't enjoy it a bit. If there's one thing I absolutely loathe, it's anything connected with sport.
Two minds with but a single thought. But I tell you what, I haven't been near Bludleigh for years, but if you're going, then dash it, I'll go too. Yes, even though it means meeting Uncle Francis again.
You will?
I certainly will. That house exercises a spell.
A spell?
A ghastly spell that saps even the most humanitarian principles and turns the gentlest nature lover into a monster of ravening bloodlust.
Oh, you're joking, surely.
I never joke before 3 in the afternoon.
But I can assure you the spell won't affect me.
Me neither, but all the same, I'd prefer to be by your side, if you don't mind.
Mind, Mr. Bassinger. Let me just say that if I do need protection, with your moral strength beside me, I feel I could face anything, even if it were your Uncle Francis and I were the last of the news. Did you ever get the feeling you were being watched?
I know what you mean. I used to go around apologizing to them.
We won't wait for the others. Francis is changing after his sunbathing. And you know what your father and brothers are like when they're out with their guns. You just can't drag them in.
Not while there's still something moving out there.
Now, Aubrey, dear, don't start on that. I had hoped you'd come back to make your peace with your family. As it is, I don't think Francis will speak to you.
I'm glad to hear it. His topic of conversation is so limited. All he ever talks about is news. And as far as I'm concerned, no news is good news.
I expect the others will look forward to having a chat with you.
All right, Mother, but the trouble is that their chats usually turn out to be zoological post-mortems. I don't suppose they've changed any.
Oh, get damned on out there.
Hello, Father.
Aubrey, my boy, you should have joined us outside. Fine day, splendid visibility. You can pick up a chaffinch at 100 yards. What's up?
My hand, Father, to inform you that you have a guest, Miss Charlotte Mulliner. Miss Mulliner, come meet the rest of the family. Now, the gentleman with the posy of dead birds is my father, Sir Alexander Bassinger.
How do you do, my dear? Doesn't like it? Oh, sorry.
And the other gentleman with the portable morgue is my brother Horatio.
Beauties, ain't they?
Possibly, Mr. Bassinger. But I must confess to preferring my rabbits with rather more of their contents inside them. It may be a purely personal prejudice, but I dislike all dead things. Give me life and joy and beauty.
I'll try. In the meantime, this is my younger brother, Wilfred. At least he appears to be out of corpses for the moment.
Well, he's only a kid.
Wilfred?
By Jove, an adder! Jolly got it, Governor. Yes, indeed. Ha! You didn't get this with an air gun. Damn near blew his head off. Larger caliber, this. What's you get it with, me boy?
I got it with a golf ball.
What range?
Oh, about 20 feet.
I say, not bad for a young un, what? Right spang between the eyes, split his head wide open.
Horatio, please, you're making Miss Mulliner ill.
And those birds are dripping all over the floor, Alexander.
What? Oh, hold in mind, dear. Good for the carpet, you know. Preservative. Well, we better get this stuff downstairs. Come on, Horatio. Oh, well, bring that damn snake with you, young Wilfred. I'll get it stuffed for you. Aubrey, see you soon.
Are you all right, Miss Mulliner?
Yes.
Well, I'd better go and have a word with the older assassin. After all, blood's thicker than water. I'm sorry. Look, I won't be long, and then we'll go for a walk by the lake. Perhaps I can show you the gazebo.
Miss Mulliner, you must promise to stay at least until the 20th. That's when we have our garden party.
Well, if Mr. Bassinger...
Oh, I'm sure Aubrey will, and you must. It's quite an annual event in these parts. Ah, there you are, Francis.
Rabbit!
Francis, this is Miss Charlotte Mulliner, Colonel Sir Francis Pashley Drake. Here's your tea. And will you have a cucumber sandwich?
Speaking of cucumbers, reminds me of a gnu I once met. He was a cool customer. Ever shot a gnu, Miss Mulliner?
I have never even spoken harshly to one.
Miss Mulliner is a friend of Aubrey's, Francis.
Is she, though? Shouldn't see too much of the fellow if I was you. He's not the sort of chap I'd like any daughter of mine to get friendly with.
Oh, you're wrong, Colonel. You have only to gaze into Mr. Bassinger's eyes to see that he is above reproach.
I never gaze into his eyes. I don't like his eyes. I wouldn't gaze into them if you paid me. I maintain that his whole outlook on life is morbid and unwholesome. I like a man to be a fine, strong, upstanding Englishman that can look his gnu in the face and put an ounce of lead in it.
Life, Colonel Pashley Drake, is not all news.
Oh, so you imply that there are also wapiti, moose, zebus, elks, and mountain goats. Yes, well, maybe you're right.
Uncle Francis, how's life with a large boar?
Good. All the same, I should give that fellow a wide berth if I were you.
So far from doing so, I am about to go for a stroll with him around the lake at this very moment to see his gazebo.
There's some bad blood in that boy, Mabel. It doesn't come from our side of the family. Reminds me of a gnu I knew once in Nigeria. He was a crossbreed.
Out of pain. I was beginning to find your Uncle Francis a little excessive.
Yes, 2 minutes of my Uncle Francis is considered by the best judges to be a good medium-sized dose for an adult. So you find him trying, eh? I was wondering what kind of an impression my family made on you.
How relative everything is. When I first met your father, I thought he was utterly dreadful. Then I met your brother Horatio, and I realized your father might have been much worse. Then along came Wilfred, and I began to see Horatio's good points. And just as I was beginning to think that Wilfred was the absolute limit, along came your Uncle Francis, and Wilfred's quiet charm seemed to leap out at me like a beacon on a dark night. Tell me, has nobody ever thought of doing anything about your Uncle Francis?
Well, it's pretty generally recognized now that he's beyond the reach of human science. The only thing to do, it appears, is to let him go on until eventually he runs down.
Let us turn to more pleasant topics. What a wonderful day it is. There's a sort of dreamy stillness in the air.
Broken only by the sound of my father murdering magpies, Wilfred strangling snakes, and Horatio encouraging a dog to eviscerate a rabbit.
But hark! A humblebee.
No, that low, droning noise you hear is the sound of my Uncle Francis telling my poor dear mother yet again what to do with a dead noodle. Let us move out of range. How lovely the day is, Miss Mulliner.
Yes, isn't it?
How gently the breeze caresses yonder water.
Yes, doesn't it?
What a fragrant scent of wild flowers it has.
Yes, hasn't it?
On such a day, the mind turns irresistibly to love. Life, Miss Mulliner, is a Sahara through which we must all pass. We start at the Cairo of the cradle, and we travel on to, well, we travel on.
Yes, don't we?
Afar we can see the distant goal.
Yes, can't
And
we?
would fain reach it.
Yes, wouldn't
But
we?
the way is rough and weary. We battle against the sandstorms of destiny, facing with what courage we may the howling Simmons of fate. And very unpleasant it all is. But sometimes, if we're fortunate in the Sahara of life, we come upon the oasis of love. That oasis, when I had all but lost hope, I reached at 1:15 on the afternoon of Tuesday, the 30th of last month. I have something to ask you, Miss Mulliner, which I have been trying to ask since that day when we first met. Miss Mulliner, Charlotte, will you be my... Gosh, look at that whacking great rat.
It must have gone down a hole or something. The fact is, it's silly to come out without a dog. Now, if I'd had a nice, nippy terrier, I might have obtained some solid results. And it is a fine rat gone just like that. Oh, well, that's life, I suppose. Now then. Oh, I say, you must think me awfully rude.
Pray do mention it.
Oh, I mean, you must have dashing off like that.
Not at all.
Now, what I was going to say when I was interrupted was, will you be my wife?
Oh?
Yeah.
Well, I won't.
You won't.
No, never. So this is what you were all the while, Mr. Bassinger. A secret sportsman.
No, I'm not. It was the hideous spell of this ghastly house which overcame me.
Pa.
What did you say?
I said pa.
Why did you say Pa?
Because I do not believe you. Your story is thin and fishy.
But it's the truth. It's as if some hypnotic influence had gripped me, forcing me to act against my higher instincts. Do you think the real Aubrey Bassinger would raise a hand to touch a rat save in the way of kindness? I love rats. I tell you, I love them. I used to keep them as a child. White ones with pink eyes.
I'm sorry, I must go. I have a poem to write, commissioned by the Animal Lovers Gazette. Goodbye, Mr. Bassinger. From this instant we meet as strangers.
What ho,
Perfectly, thank you, apart from feeling like a sandbagged leper.
Well, will it disturb you if I hang about a bit? You occasionally get the odd rat around here.
Horatio, do you wish to be struck over the head with this parasol?
No.
Then pray do not mention rats to me.
Oh, no, sorry, forgot you were an animal lover.
Don't mention animal lovers either, nor their gazettes, nor any poem likely to appear therein.
Ah, yes, right. Point taken. No gazette, no poem.
And the writing of that poem, dear diary, was the one spot of cultural beauty in the dark days that followed. As I'd promised to stay for the garden party, I could only wait and watch the leaden hours creep monotonously by. Life went on in its fashion. Sir Alexander continued to maltreat magpies. Little Wilfred marked the fall of every sparrow. The rabbits waged their never-ending battle against Horatio, they striving to keep up the birth rate, he to reduce it. Little Drake maundered on. And Aubrey? But no. I cannot bring myself to write of one who I'd supposed to be a great white soul, living far above the coarseness of this world, rather than somebody who goes about the place chasing rats with parasols. As for his theory that Bludleigh Court exerts a sinister influence, I must regard this as pure banana oil. If such an evil influence exists, then why has it not affected me? For the only personal sensation I am aware of is one of great relief that today at last we have reached the day of the garden party.
Oh, excuse me, Miss Mulliner, but Lady Bassinger's asked me to inform you that the guests are beginning to assemble on the lawn.
Thank you, Benson.
Oh, and this package has just come for you, Miss.
Oh, thank you, Benson. It's from the Animal Lovers Gazette.
Indeed, Miss.
I wonder... Oh, thank you, Benson. That will be all.
Thank you, Miss.
Dear Miss Mulliner, the editor regrets that he must return your... He must return your enclosed poem, as he fears that its tone might offend our readers. But why? That was one of the best, one of the most beautiful poems I have ever written. There must be some mistake. No, this is mine. But am I missing something? Let's see. When cares attack and life seems black, how sweet it is to pot a yak. Or puncture hares and grizzly bears, and others I could mention. But in my animals' who's who, no name stands higher than the new. And each new that comes in view receives my prompt attention. When Afric's sun is sinking low, and shadows wander to and fro, and everywhere there's in the air a hush that's deep and solemn, this is the time, good men and true, with view halloo, pursue the new. The safest spot to put your shot is through the spinal column. And what's wrong with that? Tone might offend indeed. What's the man talking about? Tone might offend. What utter nonsense.
Wilfred? Wilfred?
Where are you going with the gun, Wilfred?
Just shooting.
Shooting, eh? Shooting! And have you never been taught, wretched child, that he prayeth best who loveth best, both creatures great and small?
No.
No, I suppose not in this house. But you might have worked it out for yourself. For shame, Wilfred, for shame.
What's all this about?
Miss Mulliner, I was not aware that you were there. All this while, I caught this lad on his way to shoot poor sparrows with his air gun, and I'm taking the thing from him. Ammunition. Tut! Wilfred, tut, have you never been told that it is wrong to shoot poor sparrows?
But I wasn't going to shoot sparrows. I was just going to shoot Uncle Francis while he was sunbathing.
Well, it is also wrong to shoot Uncle Francis while he's sunbathing. Now go, Wilfred, and thank heaven for your deliverance.
Why?
Hmm?
Why did you tell that boy it was wrong to shoot his Uncle Francis while he's sunbathing? Why shouldn't he shoot his Uncle Francis while he's sunbathing? Just think how it'd tickle him up.
Of course, there is much in what you say. I can see now that I was possibly an error of judgment on my part.
Yes. I think I've had enough errors of judgment for one day. Read that.
Oh, a poem. Yours. When cares attack and life seems black, how sweet it is to potter yet. Or puncture hairs and grit. Safest spot to put your shot is through the spinal column. Well, that's fair enough.
There's more.
To take the creature by surprise, we must adopt some rude disguise. Although deceit is never sweet and falsehoods don't attract us. So as with gun in hand you wait, remember to impersonate a tuft of grass, a mountain pass, a koji or a cactus.
A brief suspense and then at last, the waiting's o'er, the vigil past.
A careful aim, a spurt of flame, it's done, you've pulled the trigger.
And one more new, so fair and frail, has handed in his dinner pail.
The females all are rather small.
The males are somewhat bigger. Now, would you say the tune of that was likely to give offence?
Oh, certainly not. I mean, it's unexceptionable, in my opinion.
It's more than that. Why, the whole poem breathes the clean, wholesome, healthy spirit of sport that has made England what she is.
Oh, quite. And I mean, apart from that, it's educational. You see, you get a young lad anxious to shoot news, but uncertain of the correct procedure. This tells him how to do it.
Precisely. And yet that imbecile of an editor turned it down.
No.
Yes, you can imagine how I felt. Especially on a day like this, with a clear blue sky and the sun shining, and all nature calling to us to go out and kill something. And yet, you told that eager young lad not to shoot his Uncle Francis.
Well, I don't think you could kill Uncle Francis with an air gun. Come to think of it, I don't think you could kill him with an elephant gun.
Oh, no, just tickle him up a bit, as I say.
Yeah.
Now, where does he do his sunbathing?
On the roof of the boathouse.
That's difficult.
Yeah.
How is one to get at him?
Well, I remember my Uncle Francis telling me that when you shoot tigers, the best thing to do is to climb a tree. There are plenty of trees by the boathouse.
Splendid! Come on!
Say, hang on a minute.
Infirm of purpose, give me the gun.
No, I was only thinking.
What?
Well, I suppose you know he'll have practically nothing on.
Oh, he can't intimidate me. Come on, let's be going.
Little Wilfred. Stout fella. Hot at it. Laddie after me and hot. Hey! Wilfred, my boy! Wilfred! Be careful! You're very near it. Oh! Kubabu! Shaitan Kuba!
My dear, he's so fast.
Yes, a good mover. I imagine he got that way from chasing the nippier news.
Why can't they make these silly guns with two barrels? A single barrel doesn't give a girl a chance. I hate to see a fine head like that get away, especially after I winged him. The very next poem I'm going to write is going to be an appeal to airgun manufacturers to use their intelligence that they have and turn out a line with two barrels.
Yes, I shall write a pastel in prose on the same subject.
He's in there somewhere.
Not for long. I remember Uncle Francis once telling me that when wounded zebus take cover by the lower reaches of the Zambezi, the sportsman dispatches his native assistant to start a fire.
See the reeds move? Hark forward! He's taken cover again. I'm afraid we're going to find it difficult to flush him out of there. He's gone to earth behind a bishop. Charlotte, what is it?
Where am I?
Bludleigh Court, Lesser Bludleigh, Goresby on the Ouse Bedford. Your telephone Goresby 28.
Have I been dreaming, or did I really? Oh, yes, it all comes back to me now. I shot Sir Francis with an air gun. Oh, how right you were to warn me of the spell of Bludleigh, and how wrong I was to blame you for borrowing my parasol to chase a rat with. Can you ever forgive me?
Charlotte, can you ever forgive me?
What shall we do?
Well, if you're quick, you can get the old boy plumb spank against the skyline.
Don't weaken.
I won't. I won't.
Take me away from this awful house.
To the ends of the earth. Alternatively, we could take a shortcut through the fields to the railway station, hook up with a 5:50 express at Goresby, go to London, have a bit of dinner, get married and settle down.